This is what I call a ground up assessment. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what most rehab misses when your pain keeps coming back every time you load the bar and how to find it without ever leaving the gym. And I know you're probably thinking, I've done the PT, probably done chiro, stretching, foam rolling, clamshells, all that stuff. The pain may have gone down, but the minute you add weight in the gym, it came right back. And this is a missing step that I see all the time, and no one has been showing you what that is. I'm gonna walk you through 4 things I check before I even look at the painful area, 4 things that most rehab skips, and I'll show you what happened with one of my clients where 4 months of treatment had not moved her forward whatsoever. I myself had chronic back pain for around 5 years. I had nerve pain for 3 years. I couldn't stand for a long time without sitting down. So I have been in the exact spot that you're in. So what I'm telling you is not from a textbook, it's a lived experience. And now I'm back to training hard, pain-free in the gym. The reason your pain keeps coming back, even when you're doing everything you've been told, it's the same reason most rehab fails lifters. Your pain is the last thing to show up. So for example, by the time your back seizes mid deadlift, by the time your knee starts throbbing after squats, your body has been compensating for weeks, for months. For some people, it can be years. So if you keep treating where it hurts, you're showing up at the end of the story. All the chapters before it, the cause, all of that's still sitting there. And that's why the pain keeps coming back, because the root cause never got addressed. For example, the foot stops loading the proper way. That's a chapter. The knee starts caving in, another chapter. Maybe the hip can't rotate, another chapter. Maybe your shoulder drops to keep you upright. And that is another chapter as well, too. So pain is the last page of this story. It is the ending of the story. But all of the rehab out there has been treating that last page like it is the whole book. They're treating the ending and then calling it done. And that's the story that keeps writing itself in the background. And the pain just keeps coming back then. So the way that I actually like to fix this is we stop reading the last page. We start at the beginning. You ask, what is in the first chapter? What is the thing that broke down first? Where did the compensation actually start? Because that's what the assessment is for. We're not just looking at where it hurts, we're reading the entire story. So 4 things I look at in this exact order is the foot, your hip rotation, your body's position, so your center of mass, and then we're gonna look at things like training variables. So like I said, I like to start at the foot, and people always kind of look at me a little bit confused when I say that. They're like, Gabe, my back hurts. Why are you looking at my foot? It's because your foot is the first point of contact with the ground. It is where force enters up the entire system. So if your foot is not loading right, every joint above it has to compensate. So what I'm looking at here is your arch position when you stand, for example, whether your big toe stays on the floor or maybe it lifts up. Maybe your foot rolls in or out, especially when it's under load. For example, if the foot collapses, the knee dives in. And if the knee dives in, the hip can't rotate where it's supposed to. And if the hip can't rotate, then the back steps in. And now you're back to that last page. Then I look at hip internal and external rotation. And this one is huge because when you hinge, when you deadlift, when you do something like a RDL, any kind of hip dominant movement, you need internal rotation at the hip to produce force through that pattern. But if you don't have enough of it available, your body still has to complete the repetition. So what happens now, it's gonna find another way. And the easiest place to borrow that from is the spine. So instead of hinging through the hip, now you are moving through the back. And what most people don't realize is it's not just during your training, it is during everything you do during your day. If you're picking something up off the floor, if you're getting out of your car, if you're bending over towards the sink, hundreds of times a day, it is not necessarily the magnitude, it is the frequency. So the back is stepping in for the hip over and over again until the back gives out, so to speak, and then someone tells you that you have a back problem. But it was never a back problem. It was a hip rotation that was missing that the back is solving. And you can do a self-test here yourself. You could lay on your back. So laying on your back, you're gonna bend knees towards your chest and you're going to hold your thigh. And I want you to rotate the foot inwards and outwards. And you could film this yourself, all right? And you can test both sides. So when you're bringing the foot inwards, you're looking at external rotation. And where you're bringing the foot outwards, you're looking at internal rotation. Now, the third chapter, where your body sits in space. So this is called your center of mass. So if you lived in this tipped forward position, your weight is constantly over your toes. Your body is almost running in this constant low level tension just to keep you upright. Because if you didn't, you would literally fall forward. So your back, your hips, your hamstrings, they're all working before you even loaded a barbell. You can stand up, take a picture of yourself from the side, stand naturally, do not cheat. But if you see yourself tipped forward, your weight is already too far forward. And now if you stack a barbell on top of that, you're leaking energy. That leak gets worse, the compensation gets worse, and then the pain could show up faster. And then the last chapter, this is one that people miss all the time in traditional rehab. It is training variables, because a lot of the time, the pain isn't just a movement problem, it is a load management problem. So we're doing things too much, too fast, too soon on a system that just was not ready for this. So what I'm asking here are things like, what does your program look like? How fast did you progress? What changed in week 4 to week 8 before the pain even started? I'll ask about your sleep, your recovery. Are you stacking volume on a body that hasn't necessarily recovered from last week? So we have to look at the program itself too. We have to look at how you're loading your body and figure out what needs to change. All right, so I'll show you right now what this looked like with one client. Her name is Amy. She had back pain so bad that she could not walk her dogs, which was one of her favorite things to do. She didn't train for 4 months. This is someone who loved training. She saw multiple people. None of them solved her problem. It would help just a little bit, but not enough to actually solve this for good. So when she sent me her photo, you can see it here from the front. You have that shoulder tipping downwards. You have the knee caving in. Her body was shifted a little bit more towards the right. And in this case, her left side was constantly working hard to hold her upright. So that's that constant low level tension I just talked about. So once we actually address this, she sends me a video of her doing kettlebell swings. She's walking her dog. She's training heavy again. And most importantly, she said that she is back. So this is the actual board that I use with all new clients. So they will submit me videos on their initial assessment, and I will organize it on this board, and you'll see dates here. So each submission, I will be looking over a period of time if we're getting the changes that we're looking for based on our key performance indicators from the initial assessment. So I'll be looking at things like posture. So front, back, left side, right side. We're just looking at how their body is organizing against gravity in a static position. So you'll see some cases where some people, their shoulder sits a little bit higher, or their hip, for example, maybe the foot's caving in a little bit, and you will just track over time if we're getting those changes. I'll also be looking at things like standing on one leg. This is a great test because you can see the difference between one side versus the other. Maybe someone's standing outside of their base of support. Maybe they are not managing gravity well on one side. You'll see a lot of people, their foot will cave in, or their knee will cave in, or their hip starts to hike a little bit. I'll also be looking at toe touch. So this is not just a hamstring flexibility test. This is looking at, does the body have enough motion throughout multiple segments to be able to touch the ground? Standing rotation is another test I'll look at. Squat, this is going to be a big one. Do they have enough range of motion, and not just range of motion in like the ankle, for example? We're looking at the hip, we're looking at the knee, we're looking at the foot, we're looking at the position of their thorax as well too. Like there's so many things we're looking at with the squat here. Are they shifted when they go into their squat? Are they leaning on one side versus the other? Do they have pain? Obviously. So this is something else that I'll be looking at, as well as a split squat, left side versus right side as well too. So this is going to be another way to see how their body's managing gravity from the left side versus the right side. And I will track this over a period of time to see if we're getting those changes that we're looking for. What most people don't get about cases like Amy's is the fix wasn't even the assessment. The assessment just gave us a roadmap. Once I have all that assessment information and I present it to the client, I will then give them this roadmap. Now, a lot of people that I speak to, they talk about how there's no roadmap in the rehab process. They don't actually understand where they're going in their process. So that's why I give them this sheet. It explains to them what we're doing in this phase. So I have 3 phases to my program: reveal, reset, rebuild. This ground up assessment is in the reveal phase. What we're doing in this phase, what you get, and when you actually move forward. So then they know exactly where they're at in this rehab process, from reveal to reset and then to rebuild. And that's how Amy went from 4 months stuck back to training hard again. We built that bridge nobody else built for her.